Hello everybody, happy Friday. Y'all, today is January the 17th. Can you believe we're already halfway past the first month of this year? Hi everybody, today we're doing a really fun block. It is called the Tiny Woven Logs block. It's so much fun. We're doing paper piecing. I'm going to walk you through all the steps in today's video. Hello everybody, if you want the pattern for this block, it is down in the description box along with lots of other stuff like the link for Creative Crew, my Patreon, my email, all kinds of stuff is down there. So jump to the description box to grab your pattern. Hi everybody. It's so great to see you. Stephanie said, I can't wait for tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. If you're on Patreon, don't forget, or here's your friendly reminder, the 24-hour quilt retreat starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 24 hours of sewing, quilting, creating, crafting, friends, snacking, all kinds of stuff. I am so excited. It's like our favorite time of the month, right? The quilt retreat. I am looking forward to it a lot, so don't forget. And if you can't come for the whole time, that's fine. If you have to come in and leave, or just stop by once, we will be so excited to see you. Hi everybody. We're going to get started here in just a second. Donna says, you have your Bernino sewing machine that's set up. I've named her Sassy Britches, and she's there in the background. I've been using her to test some embroidery stuff while I'm able to sew over here. Do you know what I mean? And she gives me a fit every single time. I have a love-hate relationship with that machine. Susan says, I love your spool holder. Do you see it behind me? Now, all my thread wouldn't fit on there, but a good, vast majority of it does. I still have all my Floriani thread on a holder on the wall over there. And I have some Sulky brand over there, but this is my Brother Red thread and a couple other brands too. But how nice is it to have it right here in my workspace, right? I don't have to keep walking across the room to grab it. Wanda says, question, tomorrow, do we bring what we are working on or are we working on a project together? I'm having a hard time with words today, y'all. The quilt retreat, you just bring whatever you're doing. And if you're not doing anything, just come hang out. There's no pressure. We're all usually working independently on stuff. Now, occasionally, if we're all kind of at a standstill and we're bored, we might do some kind of class or some kind of demonstration or something, but that's not planned. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of spur of the moment. Also, before we get started, I have a couple other things. I wanted to bring awareness to some stuff that is on the internet. Okay, the internet has been interneting this week, okay? And this is not the first time it's happened, but I want to bring awareness to all of you. Not just for my stuff, but I know we all have designers that we like to buy patterns from, fabrics from, gadgets from. We have quilty boxes and all kinds of stuff, right? I just want to bring awareness and tell y'all to be very diligent because there is not a shortage of people out there stealing patterns, templates, SVGs, embroidery files, all kinds of stuff. And they make these websites that look similar to actual brands that have legitimate websites, right? They make it look like you're on a legitimate website, but all of the patterns are stolen. I had one of my patterns stolen from my Etsy shop, and they used my photos. They used all of my wording from my listing. They're selling my pattern. They used my SVGs, and they're selling rulers. Although I bet you if you buy a ruler from them, you'll never get it. Do you know what I mean? So I just want to say, not just my stuff, and this isn't the first time it's happened. It's all over the internet. I've seen my patterns stolen several times. But when you're shopping with your favorite designers, just be diligent that you are on the right website. Do you know what I mean? Like, I only sell my stuff on Etsy, Lisa Capen Quilts on Etsy, and occasionally I post a pattern for sale on Patreon. So if you're not on one of those two pages, my store on any of those two pages, and you see a Lisa Capen Quilts pattern, it's stolen. Don't buy it, okay? I don't want them to get your information. Can you believe we have to talk about that? Honestly. And also coming up, right before I clicked to go live, I finished editing a video for my little quilt block embroidery. So it's a freestanding lace ornament. See, there we go. Isn't that so pretty? Isn't that so pretty? But I took the same design and I stitched it on fabric as well. So I made a little quilt from it. Same design, stitched on fabric. So keep an eye out for this video because I just got done editing it and I have to make a couple more changes, but this video is coming soon. So y'all keep an eye out. Where can I put this stuff? Next week, we are making the simple knot block. Y'all, today and next week, we're doing partial seams. That little block right in the center is done with a partial seam. I'm gonna walk you through it. But I have fallen in love with these little small blocks. They're so much fun. You can make them independently as little, like mug rugs, right? You can make them as quilted little blocks and join them together to make a quilt with a zigzag stitch or some kind of decorative stitch in your machine, and your quilt would be quilted, right? Kind of quilt as you go, like. Or you don't put a backing on it, you don't put the little borders on, and you make a whole bunch of these and turn it into a quilt, right? All kinds of things you could do with it. But this is what we're doing next Friday. Okay, the simple knot tiny block. What else? At the end of today's video, we're going to be doing a giveaway for this. I stuffed it, I sewed the side, and she's all ready to go home with somebody. So when we're done with today's block, I'm going to pull up last week's video, pull up a comment picker, and we're going to pick a winner for her. But I also wanted to show you, because I stuffed it and sewed the seam on the extra one that we made last week. Isn't that so pretty? She now has a home on that back table back there. This is the one we're giving away today. Is that all? Is that everything? I think that's everything. I always feel like I have so much talking to do. Let me put her up there so we don't forget. Okay, okay. Focus, Lisa. Slow down. It's going to take my brains about me. Today we're doing paper piecing, and I'm going to just move right down here. We're making the tiny wovens log block. Isn't that so pretty? I love the colors that I picked for this block. Today I picked slightly different colors that I'm going to use, and that's what she looks like. Okay. The pattern for her. Do you know what I did today? I've been busy today, y'all. I edited a video and I cut out all the fabrics for this block today. But I printed the template page on cardstock. See that? That's on cardstock. And then I cut them out with my brother Scan and Cut. So there's all the templates, right? That's page 3. Let's take a look at this. Page 3 is your pre-cutting templates if you like to pre-cut your pieces when doing paper piecing, right? And there's a little map that tells you where all these templates are used in this block. On page 2 are your paper foundations. We're going to be using this to make our block today. So I'm going to put that off to the side. And then the first page, which just tells you stuff you're going to need, right? I've started adding little QR codes. So if you have this pattern and you're making it later and you're like, what did she do here? You can just take a picture of it with your phone and it pulls the video right up, right? 3-page PDF. Olga says, I need to put one of your name tags on. I know, I should have put the name tag on the pincushion. I really should have. But now she's all sewn together. The thought of unpicking that does not sound fun to me, but you're right. I should have put a little tag in that. All right, here's our 5 foundations, right? This one little here, that is a little foundation we're going to use. We're going to cut them all out on that outside line. Move that over to the side. And y'all, I'm just going to use my rotary cutter. Don't fuss at me. I use the same cutter for paper and for fabric. Because it saves me so much time. I don't mind replacing the blade when it gets dull. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just going to cut these out. I did not pre-do that part because I wanted you to see what I'm doing, right? Just cutting them out on that outside line. We're going to actually do some chain paper piecing today to hopefully speed up the process a little bit. All right, we're almost done. And this little center block. Okay, let me get my trash off the table so I can focus. It's a little bit warmer in here today. I actually had to turn the heat down some today. So, yay. All right. So we have our little foundations here, right? And this might be helpful for you. I'm going to go ahead and just lay them out like so. And if you look really closely, they're shaded different colors, right? There's 2 that have a blue tint to them. Those are the A's. And there's 2 that have sort of a brownish tint to them, or tan, and those are the B's. And I want you to notice, we'll see, let's go like this. Like this. Like this. And like this. This is how these pieces are going to come together, just like so. See that? And right in the center is that middle piece like that. But looking at this, right, the widest section, each one of these has 3 sections. There's a skinny, a medium, and a large. The large section is towards the center, right? But the difference in the A and the B foundations, the dark on the A foundations is the skinny piece. So it goes dark, medium, light. And then on the B sections, the darkest section is the wider strip. So it's dark, medium, light. And that really gives you a really cool effect with the contrast of your fabrics, right? Of course, you could use whatever fabrics you're using. But see how that's the light, medium, dark, light, medium, dark. See that? All right. So what I did is I cut out my templates with I printed them on cardstock. I sent it through my scan and cut, and it cut them out perfectly, right? And you can use these to pre-cut your fabrics. You know what I did? I cut my fabrics on my scan and cut. So I have everything already pre-cut, and it's all sitting right off to the side. So I don't have to cut fabrics today. We are ready to go. All right. So I kind of want to stay in an order. Let's put this off to the side for a minute because I want to chain piece these. I think it'll go more efficiently today. But when I do, I'm going to group these together and I'm going to group these together. All right. And if you look, the little templates have an order to add your pieces, right? So on the A templates, we're starting with the dark, medium, light. And on the B templates, we're starting with the dark, medium, light in numerical order. Usually the pattern is written like that so that we're pressing the seams in the right direction, right? So there we go. Now I'm going to use my light pad for the very first fabric position. And then after that, I don't think that we need to use it. So watch your eyes for a minute because I am going to pull over my light pad. And I'm just going to use that to position the first fabric on each one of these foundations, right? And don't forget, we're sewing on the printed side. We're placing our fabrics on the back side. So we need the blue skinny. Watch your eyes. Oh, that's extra bright, isn't it? There. Sorry. I just want to see, and I'm going to add just a little bit of glue in this first position. That's really hard for you to see, isn't it? Just to hold this first fabric in place. Our fabric, the very first one, goes right side facing up. And using my light pad, I'm going to just position, like see that sewing line right there? I'm just going to position the fabric about 1/4 of an inch beyond that sewing line. And that's really why I want to use my light pad, just to see that. The rest of everything else, we're going to use the add 1/4 inch ruler, and we won't need the light pad. So I'm just going to do that for all 4 of these. There's that one. And then with these, we're starting with the big. So let me bring these in. Flip them over. A little bit of glue, like so. Someone commented on a video not that long ago, I use way too much glue, evidently. Just a rough estimate, 1/4 of an inch past that sewing line. And now I think, oops, that button's so touchy. I think we're done placing those, and we can turn off that light pad and just move it off to the side. So there are my first fabrics placed, right? So we can bring in our second fabrics for each one of these. And these fabrics are going to go the right side facing down, right? So right side facing down. Right side facing down. right side facing down, and right side facing down. And I'll just pinch everything together as I bring it over and sew it, right? The very first thing we're gonna do is sew our first seam directly on that line. And this is just regular copy paper, y'all. You could use newsprint if you like using that. This is just regular copy paper, so I'm gonna lower that stitch length. I'm gonna try to use a 1.0 and see how that does, okay? Now, I want to thank my moderators today. Thank you so much, Mimsy, and any moderators that come in the future today for keeping an eye on the chat. When I'm trying to focus or I'm at the sewing machine, I don't see the chat a lot. So y'all just keep that in mind. I would never intentionally ignore a question or a comment. I just have to stay focused. Okay, so let's come on over. Oh, Dari is here. Thank you, Miss Dari. I only see so much of the chat, so I haven't seen Dari's comment. Thank you so much, you guys, for keeping an eye on everything. We're going to come over here. I forgot to turn on that box. And we're going to chain piece these 4 seams, okay? Now that's a stinker. I use some 505 spray to keep my fabric on the scan and cut mat. So I can already tell it's not really grippy, but it feels grippy on the bed of the sewing machine. So maybe next time I want to rethink that. Here's our first one. Our second. Our third. Yeah, this is going to go by pretty quickly chain piecing. And each one of these units only have 3 pieces. All right, we're sewing right off the edge of the paper, right? I have the coolest thing coming today, y'all. I'll share a picture of it on my Facebook after the mail comes. Should be here today or tomorrow. But it's a little wooden flower that sandwiches used rotary blades, and it sits in a stand, so you can just take these and go snip, snip, snip. It's a thread cutter in the shape of a flower, and it's wood. And it's a great way to use the used rotary blades, right? To recycle them. All right, so where's my little add a quarter ruler? I'm going to go ahead and flip that second fabric over. And instead of gluing, since somebody says I use way too much glue, instead of gluing, I'm going to press these seams, okay? So let me just get them all flipped over. Oh, do you hear the dripping? I have a sink here in my studio, y'all, and it's right on an exterior wall. And I've kept that sink dripping because we've been in the teens and below freezing, and I don't want a pipe to burst. So I've just left it dripping. I've become noise blind to it, so I didn't even hear it until y'all said something. Okay, so I'm going to just take these over to the pressing board just off camera real quick and just press those seams just real quick, okay? Yeah, I've become noise blind to it. Just a quick little press. There we go. And before we move on, I don't want to turn my light pad on because it's so blinding when it first comes on, right? See that stitch line? See all this extra fabric? We're going to trim that away, leaving just 1/4 inch. Many of y'all know the drill, right? You didn't even need this video to get you started, especially if you've done Sunday Stars or any of the projects I've done since then, because I seem to be like really super fixated on paper piecing here recently. All I'm doing is putting the little beveled edge. You could use a postcard, you know, anything that's nice and flat, right on that line, folding it over, and then using the add 1/4 to trim this away. Is that dripping getting on y'all's nerves? Because I will walk over and turn that sink off if you want me to. Just say, yes, it's on my nerves. I don't mind, y'all can tell me. Now each one of these foundations only has 3 pieces, but the good news is we only have to trim that middle section on each one, like the way I'm doing right now, right? So the block, once you get all the fabrics cut and everything, actually goes together really quickly. Susan said yes. Mary Jo said no. I tell you what, y'all sit here and look at these pretty fabrics. I will go just turn it off while I'm doing the live. All right, now look at this. You can look at that while I'm gone. That should be better. And I didn't mind getting up because I had real pants on today. All right, so there's those little trims. We have one more fabric for each of these, right? We have the widest one on these blue sections. We're going to put those with the right side facing down. Wow, it is a lot more quiet in here now. I will make sure to go turn that back on for sure. And then on this unit, it's the skinniest piece. And we're putting those right side facing down. So we're going to go back to the sewing machine and sew these 4 seams. Miss Susan, I'm not sure why the closed caption doesn't work on my lives. There might be a setting that I don't have turned on correctly. So I'm so sorry about that. All right, we're going to come back here. Try to stay on that line the best you can, right? We have this last one. I didn't realize how much noise that sink was making, but now it sounds really quiet in here. Okie doke. I'm going to cut and separate each one of these. We're going to flip it over, and I'm just going to fold over that third fabric, sort of just finger press it like that. And I will press these seams with my iron too, okay? All right, let me go give those a press real quick. Ooh, there's UPS. Maybe that's my little thread cutter thing. Oh, nope, he drove by. That was not my little thread cutter thing. All right. I can tell these fabrics are going to be so pretty together. So once we're here, we just have to trim up all the extra fabric that goes all the way around, right? So I'm going to do that before we move on. Lining up the 1/4 inch line on our ruler with that inside solid line, right? So when we do that, it doesn't so much matter if you cut the paper foundation out exactly accurately. Like, I don't know if you can see, there's a tiny sliver of white beyond that cutting where I cut it out, right? With my rotary cutter real quick. That's okay, because when we trim everything, it's not based on the outside of the paper. It's based on the 1/4 inch line matched up with that inside line. I'm just gonna real quickly go through this. I guess I should have brought over my rotating circle mat to do this. I didn't think about it. Did I trim this side? 1, 2, 3, 4. I did. Yeah, so, I mean, this is a really great example, right? See how it looks like I didn't cut it correctly, right? Because there's a paper sliver missing in this corner. But that's right. I didn't cut the paper out exactly right. But trimming, matching up that line with our ruler, squared this up perfectly. So see that? Look how pretty that is. I'm going to do that for each one of these. Yeah, our quilt retreat is tomorrow. I don't have anything specific that I'll be working on, so that's when I'm the most dangerous. Because who knows what I'll end up making or doing. But it seems like forever since we've hung out in the quilt retreat. There's the second. I think that's because in December we did our quilt retreat like a week early because of Christmas. So now it seems like it's been a really long time since we had our quilt retreat. And also, as I'm just trimming and chatting, on Patreon not this weekend, next weekend, let me give you a date specifically. The 26th, Sunday the 26th. On Patreon, we're getting together in a Zoom to have a sewing session for the tiny house block, right? There's already a video tutorial, so I won't be teaching it, but I'll be there to answer questions if you have any. But it's a great time to come together to make one of those blocks. And we're going to get together each month and make 12 tiny house blocks. Isn't that so pretty? And then we'll have enough to put together a small wall quilt at the end of the year. I put the ruler up like I was finished. I'm not. But this is the last one. And then I can clean up all these little tidbits. Now I'm done with that. And that's perfectly pieced. So let's just bring in these pieces again. I think it's easier if I have an example to go by. So this and this, opposite. This and this, opposite. Isn't that going to be so pretty? The greens and the blues together like that. So we need to cut that little piece. And I am going to use this template, okay? So what I'm going to do is glue it. But I'm going to shift this, now that we've taken the time to get it situated correctly. Let's just put that right up there, like this. I'm going to bring in this fabric, and I'm going to use some glue on the back side of this paper template, because I need that paper template to stick, okay? So I'm going to put it like so. On the back side, the right side is facing up, okay? On the paper side, it looks like this. I'm going to dry this with my iron, and the glue is going to dry not instantly, but like in 2 seconds. But drying it with my iron also strengthens that bond. So when we go to take off all the paper, this paper might stick to the back side of this fabric a little bit more than the first paper where we glued those first fabrics. I didn't use any heat to dry that glue, right? That paper should remove fairly easy. This one, I don't want this to come off, right? So I'm going to dry it with my iron and just strengthen that bond just a little bit. And now I have to let it cool off for a little bit. Just a second. And we're going to pretend like this is just like this piece block. We're going to use our ruler and we're going to trim everything using that center line. So I have to scoot back here to do it. I actually feel like I could take off my long sleeve shirt. All right. Let's just get rid of these little tidbits. And there is our perfectly pieced center block, okay? And I didn't really pay attention, but the hearts are directional. I guess it doesn't much matter, right? Here we go. Now this block comes together around that center piece, okay? When we start sewing the very first seam, we're not sewing completely from one edge of this center piece to the next. We're going to start somewhere in the middle. All right. And we're going to do a little back stitch. Hopefully you'll be able to see that pretty well. Ooh. All right. So, I was just trying to brainstorm and think about it. It doesn't matter which 2 parts you start sewing first, right? You could start here, these 2. You could start there, those 2, or these 2. But what you would notice is without this piece, that seam is not the same size, right? That seam is not the same size, and so on, all the way around. So we need to join the center piece to one of these pieces first, so that once it's joined and that seam allowance is taken up, that will be the same length as that seam right there. See that? So I'm just going to flip it up here, just like that. And we're going to bring it over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to still be using that 1.0 stitch length, right? And I'm going to start off the edge, and I'm going to sew in to about right there. And when I stop, I'm going to take some back stitches and cut that thread. All right, so let's just bring this over to the sewing machine. Not so much a Y seam, it's like a partial seam. All right. I typically think of Y seams as in a traditional Y shape, right? You have points coming together with another seam in the middle below it. You know what I'm saying? I could be wrong though. All right, I guess the most important thing to pay attention to would be this. This needs to be perfectly lined up with the bottom piece, right? Nice and flush all the way there, and nice and straight lined up here. And I'm only going that far in, and I'm going to do some back stitches. And we're going to cut that thread. And those back stitches are really important because you don't want that seam to start working its way out as we're working all the way around, okay? So there's our little piece. The stitching stopped right there. Now I'm not going to press this particular seam, okay? Because I don't want this fabric that is not sewn to have a press in it yet. So I'm just flipping this over, and with my fingers, I'm going to pinch that, right? And finger press just that portion of the seam. See how that fabric's going to bend over like that? That's okay, but I don't want it to have a permanent press in that fabric. This, we can just sort of squishy with our fingers and finger press that seam right there. So laying that down like that, now we can bring this over and we see that now that seam is exactly perfect. And we can flip this over and line that up, and you might have to straighten this up, right? Because it's not sewn all the way. It might want to kink over like this. So keep an eye on it. We're going to keep it nice and straight like that. See how we're lining these up? Nice and flush like so. Now I'm going to get it started, and then just make sure that this fabric down here stays nice and straight all the way down. Whoops, wrong camera. All right, so there's our second seam. Now we can just, so I want you to see. So it's like this, right? We can just finger press that right on over. And just finger press that. And now we have an edge that's exactly the same as that. See that? So we're going to flip that right side over. And we're sewing that side. See, I like to get it started and then just double check, because see, this middle piece wants to like kick over to the side, right? Because she's loose. She's loose like that. So get her started after she's lined up, and then stop and make sure that this piece, kick it back over in place, okay? The seam wanted to catch the little plate on the bottom. All right. So that's how she's looking. We're going to flip that over and just finger press that. And now this piece, let's just go ahead and turn it just like that, right? So now you can see that's the same size. And we can match those seams up and sew that one right there. All right, I'm gonna get her started. I'm gonna put that presser foot down so it just kind of anchors it and holds it. Now I'm gonna take this piece here and just fold her under to get it out of the way, okay? And then I'm gonna just double check that this is lined up with that. See that? And you can just take your time. You don't have to speed sew these seams, right? I have to keep reminding myself that it's not a race, Lisa. So that's how we look coming back. Let's fold that over. And we have one more seam left to complete this block, and that is to finish this partial seam that starts here down in this block and goes to the end, right? So now we can just fold this paper here and line up that seam right there. Now, because we're paper piecing and we're automatically folding the paper over, right? It has one direction that fabric wants to fold over. And when you do, I want you to see, you're going to notice this when you're sewing this block too. Because of the nature of the order, and it doesn't matter where you start in this block, this seam here is going to be sewn so that it kind of puckers right there. I'm going to show you something really quick and easy. I'm going to just lay it flat, right? I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to come in right here, not on that seam, but just a little bit beyond it right there. And I'm just going to slit the extra fabric, not cutting this sewn seam, okay? And I'm not even cutting directly right up to it, but just snipping a little bit of that extra fabric. And so now when I fold this back and match up this seam, this is going to lay down so much smoother and flatter. See that? And now we can match up these raw edges. We're going to sew all the way down, right? See those threads? That's where I started. I'm going to pass where I started a few stitches, back stitch again, and cut the threads. We're not sewing all the way down off the paper. We're just passing where we started that very first initial seam. I hope I'm not making this too confusing. All right, you might be able to see over here better, right? See these threads? When I first started sewing this block together, that's where I started with that little partial seam. I'm going to sew beyond them just a little bit and then back stitch. and then cut that thread. And we have successfully finished a partial seam. So now we can fold over that, and we have worked ourselves right around that very tiny center block. See that? Perfectly. Babs, the needle that I have in today is a 7511, and that's because I was doing some embroidery on this machine yesterday. And it's working really well, right? If your paper is thicker, if your fabric is thicker, if your thread is thicker, it wouldn't hurt to bump up to like an 80-12, right? That would punch your paper, the holes would be bigger, and the paper would be easier to remove for sure. But today I'm using a 7511. All right, so before I even press this, guess what? Let's pick all this paper out. Let's do it. Hopefully I can move along pretty quickly. I'm just using my little pokey tool from the Dollar Tree. It pokes the paper out pretty well. But you can see, even using a 7511, with my stitch length at a 1.0, it does a really good job at cutting this printer paper, doesn't it? Now that was the first fabric. See, it had a little bit of glue right in the center, but it just released right off of there. I am gonna be mindful to reach in under these seams and to pull that paper out, because that'll add a little bit of bulkiness to our block. If you forget to do it, I don't know that that's that big of a deal, right? These little pieces of paper, if you were to wash this a couple of times, I really feel like that paper, especially the little tiny seam, it would just fall apart, right? And disintegrate right in there. Yes, so this week, I completed my first 2 orders for bread, and they loved it. I know one of them wants to order bread next week. So that might be a standing order once a week for a loaf of bread. That's kind of awesome. I know one of the pet peeves about paper piecing for many people is this part. To be really honest with you, I kind of enjoy this part. Not so much during a live, right, where I'm ready to move on to the next part to show you. But when I am sewing by myself, I kind of enjoy this part. I don't know why. I might just be weird like that. Let me go in and get that little sliver right there. Now this is the part that I glued, and I heated that with my iron, right? So that paper wouldn't fall off as I was working my way around that, right? So that paper might be stuck on there a little bit more. But look at that. It came off. And I think that's all the paper. Let me clean this mess up. And what I'm going to do is switch it over to my pressing board, and I'm going to press this, okay? Just laying out those seams nice and flat. And I'm pressing. Isn't that so pretty? Poor Wanda said she was trying to keep up with me. I'm moving fast, Wanda, but I've made this block a couple times, so I have experience with it, right? I'm sorry. So there she is. Now, you could just repeat this part, right? This is the block. You could repeat this and make a whole quilt from it. Now, how adorable would that be? A little baby quilt, right? A crib size quilt for a baby shower, right? You could just repeat this and make a whole quilt from it. Now, I am going to add some borders to this because I want all of my blocks to finish like this, right? And this block here, let's measure this so I can just tell you. This portion of the block is 6 3/4. That's a weird measurement, isn't it? But when we add little borders, the measurement for these borders are in the pattern, right? When we add that, the finished block is 7.5 inches, but when we're done, the block finishes at 7 inches. Is that confusing? I'm going to add these little borders just like so. And I just cut them out longer, so I do need to make a little trim. Like so. And I'm going to switch over to a 1/4 inch seam allowance and add these first two sides, okay? Quarter inch seam allowance. And I lowered my stitch length to a 2.0, okay? I'm going to keep these stitches nice and tight. I pushed the wrong button. All right, let's add the first two borders. I guess I should pay attention since I had to go and use directional fabric. Make sure those hearts are going the right way. These first two sides, we're sewing the seam all the way one side to the next. Let's flip her around and let's make sure those hearts are going the same way. So there's our first two sides on. Let's come over here. And before we move on, I'm going to trim up these little extra tails. Yay, you love this block. I'm so glad. All right, let's go ahead and just trim up these extra tails. I'm sorry I'm missing so much in the chat today, y'all. I would tell you though, between my moderators and everybody else here in the chat, y'all are so helpful. So I just want to thank y'all for answering questions and pointing people in the right direction. All right, I'm going to press these borders to the side. That weirded me out for a minute. I'm going to press these borders towards the borders, but I'll do that off camera so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. And now, perhaps I should have used a different color border. That's going to play with my eyes a little bit. It is what it is now, right? So I'm going to add a strip here. Let's just pre-cut some of that extra off, right? And I'm going to add a strip here. One side, I'm going to sew from edge to edge. And the other side, in this section here, not over here where these seams are, but in this wide section here, I'm going to leave an opening right there. Okay? And that's how I'm going to flip this right side out. So the first side, we're going to sew completely from one side to the other. This next side is where I'm going to leave the opening. I'm going to come right below that seam right there. And I'm going to do a back stitch. And I'm going to cut my thread. And now I'm just going to jump. See that seam right there? I'm going to jump right before that seam. My hands are a little jittery today. Couple of stitches and some back stitches. So there's our little opening. I really feel like I could take this shirt off. The heat is now kicking in overdrive. I might be having a hot flash. What bread did I make? I made the country white bread, which I add the egg, and I used tallow instead of butter or oil, right? So yeah, it was the one that I add the egg to. All right, so before I press these seams, let's go ahead and trim this off. And I'll tell you the difference the egg makes. That bread is so dang soft, and it stays soft for about 4 days. I like a sandwich where I don't have to toast my bread if I don't want to, and adding the egg makes that much of a difference. I'm just going to trim off these little nuggets. And we're going to trim off these little nuggets. And before we press this, this is the side that has that open seam right there for our opening glue stick. I'm just going to, right in that opening, add a little bit of glue stick. And let's bring this over and iron these seams. Oh, it's dark. Can you see that? I don't know why that camera went dark. We're going to flip this right over and press that. See that? Press, press, press with our fingers. Look how nice and straight across that is. The iron is drying the glue. We're never sewing through wet glue. This is driving me nutsos. All right, let's come back over here. All right, so check this out. Which side was it? Where were you? Here we go. That looks completely straight across, right? There's our opening. To finish this, I have some batting. That's what this is. It's black batting. It's all that I have left that is in smaller pieces. And I have a piece of fabric for the back, right? So we're going to create some layers. We're going to put the batting down first. We're going to put our back fabric down second, right side facing up. And we're going to put our quilt top down, right side facing down. See that? And I'm going to throw some pins in there just to keep everything anchored as I sew all the way around, and we don't have to leave any openings. That is now my preferred all-time favorite way to do this. And now we can bring this to the sewing machine. We have just those little 4 seams left. That is it. Here we go. I'm gonna still use the 1/4 inch seam allowance, okay? And even with the quilt batting in there, my stitch length is 2.0 and it seems to be feeding through. At this step, with that batting and the extra back fabric, you might have to increase your stitch length if everything's jamming up in there. So that's the first side. Every side now, when I pass that little seam, I'm going to just do a back stitch over that, just reinforcing the corners. And I'm going to quickly go through the other sides, okay? And we have one side left to do. And I reinforced that corner at the end of this stop, so we're good. Where's my scissors? Let's use the big guns now. There we go. I'm going to take these pins out. And I used a 1/4 inch seam allowance, right, so that this will finish at 7 inches. But I don't necessarily want a full 1/4 of an inch bulkiness there. Because I've reinforced those corners, I feel confident in trimming a little bit of this away. Just a little bit. Yeah, I'm burning up, y'all. I hope I'm not catching a cold. Because it is not hot outside, I can tell you that. All right. So now we find where we left that little opening, right there. We can reach in and pull everything right side out. Thanks for hanging out with me, everybody. I'm really looking forward to this evening. Coming back and reading everything that I've missed. That's usually what I do on a Friday evening. My finger, I'm going to go in and just start poking out these seams. Don't forget, if you have to leave before I'm done with this, I'm going to pick the winner of the little pin cushion here in just a couple minutes. So come back if you have to leave before that. All right, where's my little chopsticky? I'm going to reach in and poke some corners out. Just a little bit. Just a little. Just a little. That's still playing with my eyeballs. That was a poor fabric choice on my end, right? Now we're going to flatten this out. And I am going to just bring this to the pressing board and give it a press. Before I do, though, here's what I like to do. That's where my opening is. See my fingers tuck in there? I'm going to add a little bit of glue right in the center of that. And that's going to tack that down. And when we press it with our iron, it's going to dry that glue. And it's going to stay nice and flush like everything else is on all the sides, right? And then all we have left to do is some simple quilting, starting with a straight stitch all the way around. So just off to the side, I'm just going to give this a quick press, okay? See that? Let's go back to the sewing machine one last time. And this is it for today. I'm going to switch to just a straight stitch. And I'm going to up the stitch length to a 2.5. You could do a 2.4, right? The same straight stitch you would use for quilting, basically. And the very first thing I'm going to do is a straight stitch just inside this little border. It's going to look like a faux little binding on here, right? But that's going to close permanently our opening. Oops, one more stitch. There we go. And that's where we started. Now, depending on your batting specifications, right, I think it's always important to know the batting that you're working with. So this batting, I think, if I remember correctly, quilts, like, you can be like 8 or 10 inches apart with your quilting. This finishes at 7 inches. So just doing that little stitch all the way around is sufficient. So for this one, I'm not going to do any quilting on the inside. And you see how pretty that is? But on this one, I did a simple stitch in the ditch on these 4 seams here. So 4 straight lines, right? And you can see that on the back. And look how lovely that is, right? So there's some ideas if you want to do some quilting on them. It does give it a very, just doing those straight lines, those 4 straight lines gives it a nice little quilting feel to it. But you don't have to. You could stay nice and simple just like this too. Depending on your batting. If your batting it has a spacing of 6 inches, do the straight stitch, right? But there we go. Isn't she so pretty? That's playing with me. I feel like I'm rolling over my shirt. I am. Hold on a second, y'all. I was getting my shirt all caught up in the wheels of my chair. Whew. Okay, so let me straighten up a little bit, and then we're going to pick a winner for this pincushion. Let me just tell you, I made the biggest mess. I knew better not to fill the pincushions up right here, but I did it anyway. And I had that stuff all over the place. I'm just now getting to where I don't feel it everywhere. Do you know what I'm saying? Let's put her off to the side right there. She's so pretty. Let's pull in the pincushion. So this is what we're doing the drawing for. Yay, Shelly, I'm so glad. I'm so glad I've helped with your t-shirt quilts. So Terry, you can find my recipes, my bread recipes, if you go to YouTube and in the search bar, type in Lisa Capen bread. There's 2 different videos. One is a more simple, basic bread, and it tastes delicious. It rises so beautifully. and it has less ingredients, okay? It's more like a traditional bread, right? It has fewer things in it. The taste on it is phenomenal. My problem with that bread is if you don't eat it in like 2 days, you have to toast it, which is perfectly fine if you like toast. I have a harder time eating toast because of my teeth, right? So, well, I'm getting better now, but toasting was a struggle for me for a few months, right? So then I have another bread recipe where I add an egg. I think that's all I added to it. But the egg acts as a preserver, right? It adds protein to your bread, but it also acts as a preservative. And your bread is much softer and it stays softer for longer. Both delicious, but I really like the one with the egg in it. All right, so for this, oh, Anitra says, I have a hard time eating toast because of the bread. I'm sorry. All right, for the giveaway, you had to have commented on last week's live video and not in the chat area. You had to go back to YouTube, go back to the video, and in the normal comment section, leave a comment. And I asked you to leave the word tallow because that's the keyword I'm going to use to filter out the comments. Okay, so good luck, everybody. I'm going to share my screen and hopefully everything goes smoothly. It's going to look crazy for a minute. And I'm going to pull this up and y'all give me a minute. I just want to make sure, because I'm looking at my phone, that you see what I see before I move on. We're holding. Okay. All right, so on the screen, what you see here right now, this is last week's live. I have it just paused. This is the one I'm going to give away next Friday. This is the video there that I made making this pincushion, right? So I'm going to copy the URL for this video. And we're going to go to the YouTube random comment picker. And I'm going to paste that in there. And I'm going to say fetch. Now it's going to ask me to choose a filter. And because I prompted you to use the word tallow, we're going to say keyword filter. And I'm going to say tallow. We're not going to allow duplicate comments, okay? And we're going to say continue. It's pulled up 88 individual comments with the word tallow in there. I know there's more comments on that video, but maybe they didn't use that word. And we're going to pick a winner. Are you ready? Here we go. Patsy Singleton. She commented tallow. Patsy, are you here during the live, Patsy? Or are you watching on the replay? Congratulations. I'm so happy for you. Everyone that did not win, I am so sorry. But guess what, y'all? I like randomly doing giveaways, okay? I don't like to announce them because I like it to be a smaller group who's here on a more regular basis, right? Who wins. But watch each week because you never know what I'm going to do. But Patsy Singleton, I'm so happy for you. Yay! That's exciting. All right, so Patsy, here's what you need to do. Don't put your address in the comments section, right? You're going to send me your mailing address to this email right here, right? Just go type me, Patsy's here. She's here. I'm so happy for you. This is yours. Made with love. I even hand sewed the little closure for you. And I didn't say any cuss words while I did it. And look how good that turned out too. So yeah, here's the email. Send me an email with your mailing address and I will put this in the mail for you. Okay? Congratulations. That was fun. I wish I had something else to give away. That's it for today though, y'all. That's it. I did, however, go to the Dollar Tree this past week because my favorite pens, I had one left. All right, look, see there's no ink. The ink level is below the little grippy. These are my favorite pens. They're Joe pens from the Dollar Tree. You get 10 for $1.25. They're my most favorite writing pens ever. And I buy like 4 or 5 packs at a time and they last me a long time. But I was down to this last one. So I went to the Dollar Tree and got more pens. And they had some more pokey tools, right? So I picked up a couple packs. They come 2 in a pack, right? Because I've been doing paper piecing quite a bit in the last year or so, right? A lot of time people ask me, what is this? And every so often I hear that y'all don't have a Dollar Tree near you, right? I was thinking about doing a giveaway with a couple packs of pokey tools coming up. Not in this video, but coming up. I mean, what's the interest in that, right? Are y'all interested? There we go. I can see your comments now. Mimsy said, Lisa, turn your water back on. I'm going to write myself a little note. Thank you, Mimsy. Turn water on. That is an old faucet too, y'all. It's a stainless steel faucet. It's a little tiny little faucet sink. It's not, but so big, you know, like that. And it's right on that outside wall. And there's no insulation in that wall. I can tell you that right now. So yeah, I want to make sure that I'll leave that dripping. I didn't hear about Dollar Tree. I did hear about Family Dollar closing some stores. I haven't heard that about Dollar Tree though. But I don't know all the news, y'all. I try not to watch the news that much. But just scrolling online, you see stuff. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen where Dollar Tree is closing, but I did see Family Dollar is closing some locations. Evelyn says, I can't find them at my Dollar Tree. You know, they all carry different stuff, right? And the craft section at one Dollar Tree could be totally different than 10 miles down the road, that Dollar Tree. All right, I'm seeing the consensus says, let's do a giveaway with the pokey tool things. So yeah, let's do it. Not today. Stay tuned. Like maybe next week, I'll do an announcement for a giveaway. But yeah, I love them. I didn't need any more, but I picked them up. Right? You get 2 in a pack. It lasts forever. So you could get one and share one with a friend, right? Because you'll get 2. Are they for cuticles? You know what they actually are? This is like a weeding tool for vinyl. They call it a piercing and scoring tool set. So you can poke holes and score paper folds with the other end. See that? It's got like a needle. See that? It's great for grabbing paper and pulling it off the backside of paper piecing and scoring the sewn edge, right? Just helping cut the little dots of paper in those seams. That's what I use it for. But most people get these for weeding out designs in vinyl. Faye says, are they packaged as pokey tools? No. However, I might write in Sharpie pokey tools before I mail it to you. Kathleen, that was the same sink you had in your first apartment. Let me tell you, I don't know how you wash dishes in that thing. That sink is big enough to just fit my hands in. But you know what? This space here, it's not even supposed to be like a 4-season room. It's really not. It's more like a 2.5-season room. And the previous owners used this room as a bar for entertaining. There's a counter right behind the camera that you can't see. And there was a raised platform and they had chairs on it so people could sit up on the raised platform, and they had a bar, and the back wall was nothing but stuff to make drinks with. And they had some couches in here and some tables, and this was a bar for all the locals to hang out. And evidently they were quite the entertainers, and lots of people have been here to our house because of this room right here. And I think many of them were disappointed that I turned it into a sewing room. But that little sink, I guess, is where they rinse glasses and stuff, you know. And it is tiny. But it's also convenient to have if I need to wash my hand, you know, glue on my fingers. I don't have to go all the way to the kitchen. I can just wash up right there. Or if I'm painting and I just need to rinse my palette or whatever, that sink is very convenient to have, even if it's tiny. Francis, I did show you how to make these. Now, if you watched Sunday Stars, that whole series, I can't remember which video that's in. It's in one of them, but I showed how you could take a mechanical pencil from the Dollar Tree and pop that lid out and use a regular sewing needle for hand sewing and make your own pokey tool. Like maybe this is easier to grip for you for a pokey tool. But this pencil was from the Dollar Tree, and you get like 5 or 6 of them in a pack. I don't know which one of the videos that was in though, but it was during Sunday Stars. Kathleen, you made it today. That's awesome. Barbara says she uses her seam ripper sometimes as a pokey tool. That would work just as perfect, right? That would work just as good. I don't know where my seam ripper is, but that would work exactly the same. All right, Miss Steffi, I will see you tomorrow. I'm excited for it. The quilt retreat. I was talking to Donna yesterday and I said, I might struggle during this month's quilt retreat because, y'all, I've been going to bed at 10 o'clock every night for a week and a half. And setting my alarm for 6 o'clock in the morning so I could be more disciplined, you know, with my time. Anyway, doing that just a couple nights, now at 9:30, my eyes are getting heavy. I'm ready to go to bed. And then I got to thinking, we have the 24-hour quilt retreat Saturday. So I might be struggling just a tiny little bit, but hopefully we'll stay active and it'll keep my mind awake. I think that's everything for today, y'all. Ah, Susan says, Clover makes a curved awl that works too. Also great for pulling out stitches. Anitra, you're camping this weekend. How warm is it where you are? Let me tell you, you are a lot stronger than I am if you are camping in a tent and it is cold outside. You are so much stronger than I am. Mary Jo said, an official Lisa Pokey tool would be better than using any seam ripper. Right? We could be twinsies. All right, y'all. I know that I have some chicken nuggies waiting for me. How awesome does that sound? I hope y'all have a fantastic weekend. Patsy, don't forget to email me. Okay, I'm excited to send this to you. If you make this block, don't make the same mistake I did and use the same fabric for your borders. Right, but if you make this block, I want to see it. And an easy way to do that is to share pictures on the Creative Crew. And y'all know we have an awesome moderator over there, Miss Diva herself, Maureen. So if you haven't joined, make sure to answer the 2 security questions. But most of y'all are there already if you're on Facebook, right? Share pictures of your blocks. I want to see them. I'm having a lot of fun with these smaller quilt blocks. Let me show you my goal. This is next week's. Stay tuned. They're the same size. See that? I would like to make a little random sampler quilt. These are all quilted. I just stitch them together like that, right? How cool would that be? Anyway, this is what I'm in the mood to do the next few weeks. So I hope you love it too. If not, you could just come hang out with us. But yeah, next week we're making the Simple Knot tiny block. Thursday I'll have the thumbnail up. You can grab the pattern. And yeah, I'll see y'all next Friday if I don't see you in the retreat tomorrow, okay? Bye, everybody.